Okay, I think I'm ready. You should be seeing my screen.
Yes, sure.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Barbara Talent, and I'm excited to tell you about the App Company. The three co-founders of the App Company have a combined almost 100 years experience and 8 great exits. Just to let you know our stage, we have apps in beta, early revenues, and a multi-billion-dollar market. So here's the problem we're solving. Oops. The data, so today everyone has your data and it's spread in their silos all over the internet. The data is often duplicate across these sites and it's not always protected properly. And it's their data, not your data. And if you change something like your address, good luck in going to all these databases to update it. This is bad for people, but it's also bad for the companies. The data is a liability and it's often out of date. It's a big target for bad actors as well. And frankly, it's a mess and nobody would architect a system this way. So we are changing that. Each individual will have an @sign that they own and they own the keys to their data. They decide who accesses their data and they can just as easily remove that access at any point in time. Imagine an internet where everyone asks for permission. This is so much better for people for all of these reasons, but it's also better for the companies too. We are open sourcing the software because we don't want any one company to own it. We've built the underlying technology and patented it. Just a side note, this is not blockchain because it needs to be real time. So our go-to-market is with fun consumer apps. These first apps are in beta test today, and they are completely private and true person-to-person apps. And they create amazing new experiences. For example, the contact app is super interesting. Just a side note, this is not blockchain because it needs to be real time. So our go-to-market is with I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback. The first apps are in beta today and they're completely private. So the contacts app is when you have peer-to-peer contacts, you only have to manage one person's data and that's your own. If you update your address, everybody that you've shared it with gets the latest address. But the most cool thing about these apps is they work together across all your data, contacts, and groups. Our business model is a registrar. And this is where we get our early revenues from. We give away free @signs to anyone who wants one, but we charge for vanity @signs. And even though the apps are just in beta, we've already had people buying up their @signs. And our timing couldn't be more perfect. The docudrama, The Social Dilemma, showed vividly how people are being manipulated through social media. And people are now desperately looking for private alternatives. And just last week, there were 7.5 million downloads of Signal, which is a privacy-focused chat app. So we have the right team, the right timing, the right tech, and a compelling go-to-market, and I'd love to tell you more.
I assume you're done now, is that right?
I am done, yes.
Okay. Explain to me, what does the product do? How does it work? I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, it's an underlying technology, a protocol and an SDK that developers can build on top of. And what it does is it allows people to own their own data. And the developers can build applications very, very quickly because they're not building out the whole user data model. That's already done for them. And they also don't have to host that, so it saves them a lot of time.
And the use case or the business use case for the revenue is what?
So currently we are a registrar. There's actually lots of opportunities for revenues on the platform, but we decided when we first started talking to people about this, everybody wanted their @signs, so we just decided to monetize that immediately.
Hi, Barbara. Henry Ann here. Just a quick follow-up. I think the democratization of data has been sort of talked about since the big tech has been sort of dominating the world, and obviously they're eating everyone's dinner and lunches. You know, with that said, the idea is great, but I just want to see how it's in execution. Why would, let's say, an Amazon or you know, Apple or some of these big tech would sign up with you guys, and people have to go through you to get to the big guys. Do you understand my question?
I think I understand your question, and it's not necessarily going through us. As I said, the technology is open source. So there are companies who are looking at this today because this is a much better way to protect the privacy of their customers. I'm not sure an Amazon would jump on the technology right away. But there are companies that we've heard that like banks and insurance companies that really do want to protect the privacy. They worry about the liability of the data, and they just think that this is a better architecture. So we have been talking to some large companies.
I'd like to understand, you depend on big companies like social networks or banks or whatever to accept your technology so that the customer would log in through your system. So how do you plan to fuel your consumer recruiting, and when you have a lot of consumer, then you are of interest to big companies and vice versa? How
Right.
do you plan for that to work?
So we've started with developers developing consumer apps. So these are new consumer app experiences that can only be done because this enables true peer-to-peer. And so that's how we've started. We've got software developers super excited about this. We've been working with the Flutter, I don't know if you're familiar with the Flutter development, but this is a really nice complement to what they're doing. And so we've got a bunch of young developers who are jumping on the protocol and the platform and using it to build out these fun consumer apps. So you'll start to see them in the market over the next couple of months. And they're all peer-to-peer, and they involve people getting their friends to use the apps. So it's very much a network effect. So we're doing it from the small apps. And we've also talked to some large companies as well.
Hi, first of all, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm waiting for Brett's son to stick that fork in his ear. You know, it's coming. I know it's coming. Just to add on to the other questions, I try to understand logistically. So you flashed a lot of big names up on one of those slides, for example, B of A. So do you need to convince B of A to then push it out to their millions of customers in order for you to get that network effect?
So we are not starting with B of A, although it's interesting that you say that, because we were actually at the B of A summit in 2019, and the CIO stood up and said that if anyone is working on a way for his customers to own their own data, then he wants to talk to them. So we do know that large companies are looking at this. I don't think we're dependent upon them. I think that there are new types of social networking and fun apps that can be built on this that will have a network effect on their own, and that will then drive the larger companies to adopt it.
You had mentioned that that it's not based on blockchain. There are blockchain platforms that are doing exactly this, but you mentioned that they're not in real time. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so my two co-founders actually worked on this problem for years. They were doing other things, but they kept coming back to this problem. And they tried to build this in blockchain and on DNS, and it just was too expensive and too slow. You had to throw a lot of compute power at it to make it work in real time. And so
that's changed.
Yeah, although the protocol that they've developed is so simple and so fast that it's just far superior and that's not to say this can't work with blockchain. It definitely can.
I'm really sorry, Barbara and Keith. There was problems probably with the sound, but the time is up for a long time. I'm really sorry. Please proceed in chat, but we need to go on because still we have quite a lot of startups ahead.